over the mic to Dr. Diwakar and Dr. Ashwini, and we look forward to this wonderful talk today. Over to you, Doctor.
Namaste, Sajani ji and everybody. It's a blessing to be part of this group. We'll start with the prayer. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Salutations to Adi Guru Dakshinamurti and Shankaracharya, who propagated and promoted the Advaita Vedanta, and Asmadacharya, our present gurus, especially Swami Paramarthananda ji, who is giving us the knowledge as it is in a very simple and in a very crystallized form for us to assimilate. And thanks to Param Vedantha group led by Dr. Timappa Hegde sir, we are indeed very fortunate and blessed to be part of this group. And because of Timappa sir alone, we all are part of this, and he is driving all of us in the right path.
Now, Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Now, Bhagavad-gita, it's an episode recorded in Sanskrit in the great epic called Mahabharata. This is a dialogue between Prince Arjuna and Lord Krishna. And mainly this chapter, which is called Jnana Vijnana Yoga, begins with Sri Krishna describing the material and spiritual dimensions of God's energies. All these energies originate from him and rest in him. The entire creation begins and dissolves in him. Before we look into the chapter in detail, Diwakar, if you can tell us why Bhagavad-gita is called Moksha Shastra and what is the relevance of dividing Bhagavad-gita into shatkams?
So as you might have figured out, we will do it in a bit of a question and answer format. It's not easy to cover everything which is there in the 7th chapter through this, but we will try. So Bhagavad Gita is called as a Moksha Shastra because if one studies Bhagavad Gita sincerely and ardently, it is guaranteed that he gets the moksha. Sarvopanishado Gavo Bhukta Gopalanandana. We have studied this in the Dhyana Shlokas. Bhagavad Gita is the milk which is milked by Lord Krishna. And what is the cow? Cow is the Upanishads. So the content of Bhagavad Gita is the essence of Upanishads alone. And of course, what is the message of Upanishads? Upanishads' message is to all of us, guide us towards the moksha. We all have fourfold meanings or reasons to be alive as human beings according to Shastras. And these are called as Purusharthas. So those are Artha, Kama, Dharma and Moksha. Artha, Kama, Dharma are called as Preyas and Moksha is called as Shreyas, which is also called as a Parama Purushartha. So Bhagavad Gita is for sure, it gives us the Moksha. And in fact, the 18th chapter, which summarizes everything, is also called as Moksha Sannyasa Yoga. So in order to get to the 18th chapter, Sri Krishna systematically teaches this Gita, and which is divided by other acharyas into shatkams. Shatkam is a set of 6 chapters. So Bhagavad Gita, having 18 chapters, consists of 3 shatkams. So we have completed, I know that 6th chapter is pending, but we have almost completed the first shatkam, which is from the 1st chapter to the 6th. Second, or the Dvitiya shatkam, is from the 7th to 12th, and the Charama shatkam, or the last shatkam, is from the chapter 13 till the 18th. So if we look at the Mahavakya, Tat Tvam Asi. Tat Tvam Asi is a very famous Mahavakya which comes from Chandogya Upanishad of Samaveda. Tatvamasi is the Upadesha of the Guru to the ardent sadhaka, who says that what you are looking for is you alone, you yourself. So in that, even that is divided. That is being explained beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita using these shatkas. The first shatka deals with the Tvam Padartha, which is also the nature of the Jiva. And the second shatkam that we are dealing with from today deals with the Tat Padartha, which is the nature of the Ishvara. And then the last Shatkam deals with the Aikyam, Jivatma, Paramatma, Aikya Vichara. The sadhana, which is covered in the first Shatkam, is Karma Yoga, which also has the individual effort. And the second, Shatkam deals with the Asana Yoga, and also it covers the grace of the God. So both Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga are the prerequisite qualifications. Those are very important sadhanas, which gives the sadhaka the eligibility to enter into the Jnana Yoga, which is covered in the final Shatkam, also called as Charma Shatkam. That also deals with the virtues or the values which are required for all of us, especially in the chapter 16 and the chapter 17. So this talk is again based on the lectures given by Swami Paramarthananda ji. So obviously, in order to get the best out of it, one will have to listen to Swamiji himself and go through the notes. So we have taken the important verses and tried to cover this. So Gnana Vijnana Yoga, the chapter 7 is divided into 4 sections. The first 3 verses are the introductory verses where Krishna gives the introduction to the whole chapter. The verses 4 till 12, he covers the beautiful, teachings on the nature of the God, nature of Ishvara. Verses 13 till 19, the causes for suffering, causes for samsara, and how to get out of it. How to get out of the samsara is covered. And in the final section, Krishna talks elaborately about Sakama and Nishkama Bhakti. In fact, some of the beautiful verses of Bhakti are there in this chapter. And of course, there is 12th chapter Bhakti Yoga, which covers exclusively with Bhakti. And also the 9th chapter also has some of the beautiful verses on Bhakti.
A little louder, please. We can't hear you. Ashwini?
Yeah, it is we started off with chanting. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Sathsang. Was it audible? Was it audible, ma'am?
Now, when you speak, it's audible, but that was not audible. I want you to come closer to the mic.
Okay. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Maya Saktamana Partha Yogam Yunjanmadashrayah Asamshayam Samagram Yatha Gnasyasi Tachruno. Now we start off with the first verse of the chapter 7. Here, Sri Krishna is indicating that he will teach the nature of the God completely and doubtlessly. But when will this become a doubtless knowledge for a spiritual seeker?
So Krishna starts off saying that he's going to teach this knowledge completely and doubtlessly. And in fact, he covers that answer in the same verse itself. So in order for us to get this knowledge completely, we need 3 things, 3 very, very important things. One is the mumukshutvam, the desire towards the moksha, keeping God as the only goal. So maya saktaha, that is the word which indicates that. And the second important qualification which Sri Krishna mentions is yogam yunjan. He covers that in that particular word. Yoga, sadhana. We need to have the karma yoga and upasana yoga as the preparatory qualifications. And then, of course, madashrayaha, the bhakti, God's grace is also required. So one needs to be mumukshu and equipped with the prerequisite sadhanas, karma and upasana yoga, and of course, gnanam also, as well as have the grace of the God. If you take God as your destination, or moksha as the only destination, we need 2 important engines. The first engine is the effort, self-effort, which is again covered in the first Shatkam, and of course, the grace of the God. If both are there, it is definitely, it is guaranteed that the moksha can be arrived at.
Okay. But what is this Samudrama? Where to chant the second shloka,
Louder.
What is this totality of the God that is referred to? How to know the God in totality?
Right. In this verse, Shri Krishna divides the nature of the God into two. In fact, he's saying mom representing the God in total. He says he has got two natures. One is the lower nature, and he calls that as Gnanam. And the higher nature of the God, which he calls as Vijnanam. And because of this only, the chapter gets its name, Gnana Vijnana Yoga. And he also says, Yagnatva Neha Bhuyonyat Gnatavyam Avashishyate. Apart from knowing these two, there is nothing else which remains to be known in this particular life. He says he covers everything in this particular chapter. Therefore, this chapter is so important. Swamiji says that this is one of the crucial chapters and it covers the essence of the entire Vedanta. This is a beautiful verse which glorifies the Gnanam and the Sadhaka. So he says that amongst thousands of people, there are only few of them who will yearn for moksha. There are only few of them who wants the liberation, who wants to know the God in totality. Amongst them, only a few will attain the complete knowledge of the God. He says, Kaschin mam vetti tattvataha. We can see this ourselves really. So there are so many people, there are only few people who will be attracted towards any form of God. Amongst few people who are attracted, there are only few people who want to go beyond the Ekarupa Ishvara, beyond the God with his forms and name. And of course, amongst only few people who further enter into, Nirguna Ishvara, will get the access to a proper guru. Amongst them, only few of them will have the competencies and capacity to sustain through all the sadhanas, including the Jnana Yoga. And amongst them, only few of them will attain the moksha. So therefore, it is said it takes several janmas for people to get towards the moksha. So here we can assume ourselves, we can take ourselves as very lucky because we are already been exposed to this. Our job is now, once we have been exposed to this knowledge, can we take it further? Can we be sincere in this study and make this into a Gnananishta so that we utilize the very reason of taking birth as human beings?
So now I think from all the topic is the nature of the body.
Louder, please.
I think maybe the mic itself is probably placed in such a way. So
you are very clear, Doctor.
All right. Okay. Maybe we. Okay.
Ashwini, a little louder, please.
Let me just give me 1 second.
Yeah, is it better now? Can you hear now?
Yes, better now.
Okay. Okay, I think now the fourth verse onwards, it is more about the nature of the God, Ishvara Swarupa. The verse goes like this. We discuss a little bit on the topic of creation and give us a little background before we go into it.
Now, this section is extremely important. Again, thanks to Swami Paramarthananda, who makes it very, very easy for all of us. This topic, even though we have kind of studied so many times, there will be some doubts which will be creeping because we have to now believe in the Shastra Pramana. and the Guru Pramana in order to completely get convinced with this information. So the central teaching of this chapter is from the verse 4 till verse 12, where the nature of Ishvara is talked about. Again, this teaching is borrowed from all the Upanishads as we discussed before. The topic of creation is covered in almost every Upanishad. There's one particular Upanishad we need to talk about now, which is the Mundaka Upanishad. There, a spider example is given to make us understand about the creation. Let's try and kind of understand this through an example. For every effect, anything that we see, let us call that as effect or karyam, we need the karanam, the cause. For example, if there is a chair that we see as the effect, we need the cause. We need both the material cause as well as the intelligent cause. So material cause for the chair is the wood, and the intelligent cause for the chair is, of course, the carpenter. So material cause in Shastras is called as Upadana Karanam, and the intelligent cause is called as the Nimitta Karanam. So the Karyam, which is the chair, has two Karanams, Upadana Karanam and the material Karanam. The same example, we can take it to anything. For example, you have golden bangle, you have a material cause, which is gold, intelligent cause is the goldsmith. Likewise, we can extend that to anything. Now, if the universe, if we think universe as the cause, universe as the karyam or the effect, then naturally the question comes, who is the cause? What is the cause for this? This Upanishad says, cause for this universe that we are experiencing, including all the galaxies and everything that we know of, everything that we can conceive, the cause for this is Ishvara. Ishvara here is both the material as well as the intelligent cause. And that is where the example of the spider is taken. If you can think of a spider, the spider is the intelligent cause because spider alone stitches the web. And where is the material coming from? Material also is coming from the spider. So spider is both the intelligent as well as the material cause. And this is called as Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. And it goes on to say, ultimately when the web dissolves, spider has the capacity to swallow that also. So Ishvara is both the material as well as the intelligent cause. Everything comes out of Ishvara. And again, when there is a pralayam, everything goes back into Ishvara, just like what happens to the what happens in the case of a spider. So Shastras say there was God alone prior to the evolution of the creation, even prior to the time and space evolution. Now, science can talk about Big Bang theories, etc. And all of them are from the evolution itself, evolution of creation. But Shastras say there was God alone. So from the standpoint of God as the intelligent cause, which is the Nimitta Karanam, we say God is the creator. It is Jagat Karta Ishvara. And from the standpoint of the God as the material cause, we say God is manifested as the universe, which is also called as Jagat Karana Ishvara. So what is the nature of this God? Now Krishna, again taking the message from the Upanishad, says he's already told that he's going to talk about Gnanam and Vijnanam. He said that Vijnanam is my higher nature and Gnanam is my lower nature. This higher nature is also called as Para Prakriti. Let's call that as PP. In other words, Brahman. And he says his lower nature or the lower nature of Ishvara is Para Prakriti. We call it as AP here, which is Maya. So Ishvara is a combination of Brahman, which is the higher principle, and Maya, which is the lower principle. We can think about Ardhanarishvara, where Shiva and Shakti are together. You have the consciousness principle, which is Brahman, Maya, which is the material principle. And let's look at what are these, what is common in these two principles? So remember that both of them are part of Ishvara alone. So what is common in Brahman and Maya? Both of them are anadi. Both of them are beginningless. Both of them are eternal. They are nitya, which means they are never created or destroyed. We also know, when it comes to the law of conservation of matter and energy, that matter can never be created or destroyed, but can only be transformed. You can see anything that we see, you can destroy them into their potential state, and things can come back from their potential state to a manifested state. And what are the differences? Of course, para prakriti, we have studied this in the previous chapters also, especially in chapter 2, chapter 4 and 5. Para prakriti, which is the higher principle, Brahman, is the Chetana Tattvam, which is the consciousness principle, whereas apara prakriti, Maya, is Jadam. Para prakriti is Nirgunam, which has no attributes, whereas apara prakriti is Sagunam, which has its forms, which has names and shapes. Nirvikara, para prakriti is Nirvikara, it has no modifications, where apara prakriti is Savikara, it is subjected to modifications. Para prakriti Brahman is Satyam. So the meaning of Satyam in Vedantic parlance is that which is independent, that which is pure existence, that which is not dependent on anything is Satyam. Whereas the universe or Maya that we see, that which is subjected to modification is Mithya. It is dependent on the Satyam. So let's look at this process of creation. So this is also explained beautifully in this particular chapter. So this is called as Shrishti Prakriya. So we said that before the evolution of creation, there was God alone. Let us say as one unit of PP, which is one unit of Brahman, and one unit of Paraprakriti, which is Maya, that is before the evolution of the creation. Let's say, imagine that like Shiva Shakti. It is only symbolic, by the way. Now, Shastras talk about creation in two stages from there. And this particular teaching is based on Sankhya philosophy. In fact, Sri Krishna himself mentions the name of Sankhya in this particular chapter. It's like what happens from the Big Bang theory as per the cosmology. Just as the seed evolves into a plant, and then that plant further evolves into tree. So seed evolving into a plant is the first stage. Plant evolving into a tree is the second stage. So there was one Paraprakriti and one Aparaprakriti initially, and then that continues into one Paraprakriti and 8 forms of Aparaprakriti. Aparaprakriti divides itself into 8, and then after that the second stage is manifold universe is created. So the famous shloka in Dakshinamurti Stotra, Bijasyantari Vankurau Jagaditam Prangnirvikalpam Punaha. So it is told the same thing there in the Dakshinamurti Stotra. Everything is present in an unmanifested form before the creation. For example, whatever I am talking now was present in an unmanifested form in the form of thoughts, and they emerged as speech while I am talking. Likewise, a tree was present in an unmanifested form in the seed, and it came out from the seed, and again that seed comes back again. So that is the example taken here.
Okay. So basically, all these energies are originated from him, and then
Louder. Ashwini, we can hear Dr. Diwakar, but you, I think, need the mic.
No, I think it's just probably the positioning. Okay.
Yes, if you move a little.
yeah, when all these energies originate, so the entire creation begins and dissolves in him. So moving to the next shloka, Bhumirapo nalo vayuhu ammano buddhirev cha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtada.
So we saw from the previous slide that Paraprakriti, Brahman, doesn't change at all. He remains like that forever. There is no changes to Brahman. It is Nirvikar. Whereas Aparaprakriti, in the first stage of manifestation, changes to 8-fold Aparaprakriti. 1 becomes 8. That is what is explained here, which is Panchabhutani, earth, water, fire, air, and space. And three more, which is Mana, Buddhi, and Ahankara. So these three are the technical words which are used representing the cosmic precursors to the Antahkarana that we all have. Antahkarana, of course, we know is Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, and Ahankara. So these are the cosmic precursors. In fact, Shankaracharya replaces them with Avyaktam, Mahat, and Ahankara. So what happens to these five elements? Five elements becomes elementals. Whatever is subtle becomes gross through a process called as Panchikaranam, and then to further 14 lokas and the universe that we all can perceive now. Again, all of this is elaborately told in the Upanishads, and particularly in the Taittiriya Upanishad, where this particular shloka, Akashat, Vayuhu, Vayor, Agni, how each of them came into existence is being detailed. Again, we need to remember all of them are modifications of the Apara Prakriti, which is again the lower form of the Ishvara.
What is this verse for a Vedanta student?
Right. Now here, Sri Krishna is saying that Me Param Prakritim Vidhi. He says that he's talked about Apara Prakriti in the previous verse. He says that my nature, know that my real nature is that which is other than Apara Prakriti, which is of course Para Prakriti. And therefore, this verse is also a Mahavakya verse where identification, oneness with Jivatma and Paramatma is also indicated. Yaya, this consciousness, Dharyate Jagat, this Para Prakriti is the one which sustains, which enlivens the inert matter, which is Maya or the Jagat. The entire cosmos is in harmony only because of this enlivening principle, which is Para Prakriti. Example we can see in the form of a bulb. Bulb is all visible, but bulb comes to life only with the electricity. Roughly, we can compare this as Brahman enlivening the universe.
Now, the final stage, I think.
So we talked about creation in two stages. In this particular verse, the final stage is talked about. The final stage of creation, is the grossification, the subtle aspects of the 8 forms of Apara Prakriti to gross universe. The 5 elements that we see, previously it was subtler, and now it became gross. From elements, through various permutations and combinations, elementals have come. So everything that we perceive, be it plants, animals, ourselves, inert matter, all of them are combinations of these 5 elements only, according to the Shastras. And therefore, the word creation itself is a misnomer, because whenever there is resolution or destruction, all these elementals will again become elements. From elements, everything again become elementals. From Bhautikam, so from Panchabhutani, the Bhautikam happens and the reverse also keeps happening. Therefore, in Shastras, apart from the first stage, creation is considered as a misnomer. It is only a manifestation from the unmanifestation. So, Aham Krutsnasya Jagataha Prabhavah Pralayastata. I am the origin and end of this Jagat. So, although there are modifications, Krishna says the Para Prakriti remains unchanged from the beginning till the end. So is the Maya.
So this is a popular verse. Everybody knows
Now this verse highlights the Upadana Karanam nature of the God. We have learned that God is both the Nimitta as well as the Upadana Karanam, the material cause. Now he's saying that being the material cause, I am the Antaryami, the inherent principle in everything. Example taken generally is one that of a pot and the clay. So we can see various shapes and sizes of the pots here. So in fact, what is this pot? Pot is nothing but the clay in a certain shape and a form. So in other words, it is only the clay which is there in shapes and forms. The name itself, the pot, the name itself has no independent existence. There is no meaning for the pot without the clay. Likewise, the universe that we see, including all of us, is the manifestation of the God, which is also called as Vishwarupam. Now, in fact, Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, which is the 11th chapter, for that, the build-up, the process of teaching starts from this chapter itself. Everything that we see is God in another form. And that is what is conveyed in this particular verse. And that enlivening principle is just like how there is a thread, the sutra in a mani, which is holding a sutra in a mala, which is holding everything together. So when there is a question, where is God? We need not go to a temple and search. Where is he not? That's what Swamiji says. Everywhere, because everything is a manifestation of the God himself.
Okay, but how do we appreciate this? Raso hamaksu gaunte prabhas shabdake paurasham punyo gandha pritibhyancha tejaschasmi bhavasau jivanam sarva bhuteshu tapaschasmi tapasvishu. Even though he is everywhere, how do we appreciate it?
Yes, that's the problem that we have. We all know that he's everywhere, but sometimes it's so difficult for us to appreciate. Here, Krishna gives a practical tip for all of us. He says, start looking at the very ness of everything. He gives the example here. I am the taste in the water. Again, just like how there was no existence for the pot without the clay, there is no existence for water without its taste. He says, I am the radiance in the sun and the moon. If there is no radiance, the very meaning for sun and moon is not there. Likewise, he says he is the sound in the space, humanness in human beings, fragrance in the earth, heat in the fire, life in all living beings. The very word being is because of the life principle. He says he is the very life. So whenever we experience anything and say, wow, okay, the very ness is the God. In fact, again, all of this is all elaborated in the 10th chapter, Vibhuti Yoga, while talking about the glories. He says is the austerity in the ascetics, is the intelligence in the intelligent, is the boldness in the strength, a boldness and the strength, boldness in the bold and strength of the strong. So divinization of the universe, what does it do? It helps in our attitudinal shift. If we know that everything is God, our attitude towards everything also changes. So every adjective in a noun, he says it is the God principle. And so he again continues that. So I am the strength which is free from desire. He specifically added this which is free from desire because that strength can be used for destruction also. People who have the destructive qualities, Asuri Sampat might use this. But he says that which is free from desires. So Nishkama, again, all the Sattvika desires belong to the God. So he also says that all the noble desires belong to the God, not those which are of the destructive quality.
Okay, I think now we entered into the gunas.
Little louder.
Etitan viddhi natvaham teshu te mai.
Right. Previously, the glory of the God is stopped in the external world. Now the internal world also. Bhavaha. Bhavaha means antakarana parinama. Bhava means emotions. So these emotions comes from where? The antakarana. So in one's mind, mano buddhi, chitta and ahankara. And all the gunas also are part of this. Again, we are talking about apara prakriti, which has its gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. He says that I am that also. Again, we need to be very careful here. Now, if these gunas are also God, do I not have any control over these gunas at all? That kind of a thinking is called as a fatalistic thinking. Shastras criticize fatalistic thinking. So there comes the, Shankaracharya, who comes and gives an elaborative bhashyam on this. He says that God is only saying that he is the samanya karanam, he is the general cause, which means he is the reason for the origination of the thoughts. Whereas the Vishesha Karanam, what kind of thoughts we want to nurture, what kind of thoughts we should develop, is something which belongs to us, the individual only, which means there is a lot of component of free will. So not everything is the fate, there is a significant component of free will. So these fatalistic tendencies are criticized in the Shastras. Natu aham teshu. I do not depend on the universe, but the universe depends on me. Again, referring to the Sachit Swarupa. So you have the gunas belonging to Apara Prakriti, which is enlivened by the Para Prakriti, which is the Brahman.
Okay. Now, the 13th and 14th verse together. Despite suffer in samsara, what are they able to do?
The wonderful, verse where Sri Krishna says that he is the gunas, he is also the reason for the gunas. And in these particular verses, it is said that the para prakriti knowledge is also very much given. So Krishna here is talking about the causes for samsara, and also he is dealing with the remedy. What is that one needs to do to come out of this suffering? So Krishna is saying people are deluded with the three gunas. He talked about sattva, rajas, and tamas previously. And he says that people are unable to know that it is my lower nature. They are getting deluded because of the Maya. Maya has two important properties. One is the property of projection. The other is the property of veiling, the Vikshepa Shakti and Avarana Shakti. The Avarana Shakti sometimes deludes all of us. In fact, it is told in a verse, in the coming verse also, that this Maya Shakti or ignorance that we all have is because of the Avarana Shakti of the Maya that is there from the birth itself. So Krishna is saying that people are only fixated on this guna, the lower form only, and therefore they are not able to look at the para prakriti. He's saying only with the knowledge of para prakriti and by surrendering prapadyante to the God, the Shastras, and of course to the Guru, one can move out of this delusion caused by the Maya. So he gives a diagnosis as ignorance and the treatment as bhakti. Bhakti as a overall means to come out of it. Of course, we know that bhakti alone cannot give the moksha. Bhakti is a common sadhana which is there through karma yoga, upasana yoga, and gnana yoga. Bhakti is a common important qualification which is required for the all bhaktas.
So now the next two verses, the following verses, we talk about the types of bhakta and also abhakta. Before going into that,
Dr.
Right.
Ashwini, we can't really hear. We need better audibility.
Right. I don't think we can, if I sit there in that chair, I don't think I'll be audible either.
I know, no, you are very audible, but
No, we have the
verse-
system. What I'll do is, probably we can swap chairs from the next verse. Okay. Right. So now the different types of bhaktas are talked about in these particular verses. In the verse 15, Namam dushkritino modaha prapadyante naradhamaha. So we talked about how people are deluded by the Maya, the ignorance caused by the Maya. And there are some people who don't want to look at the higher nature of the God at all. And they are called as abhaktas. There is no devotion at all. Because of their mean nature or the vicious nature. Dushkritino modaha. So they take to Asuri Sampat. In fact, they are not discussed here at all. But those who develop bhakti, those who have bhakti or they want to know about the higher nature of the God, they are divided into different types. He divides them into 4 types. One is Artha Bhakti. Okay. Artha Bhakti is, Artha is trouble. One who worships the God when they are in the trouble. In Kannada, there is a saying, Sankata Bandaga Venkata Ramana. Sankata is the misery. When there is dukkha, people go to God, which is very common. And second is Artharthi, for to get the material goals like health, wealth, position, etc. So Artha and Kama Purushartha, they want to accomplish. Those bhaktas are called as Artharthi Bhakta. And then you have Jignasu Bhakta. For them, God is the only goal. These bhaktas are also called as Nishkama Bhaktas. They are mumukshus. And of course, the 4th type of bhakta, those who have discovered that God is not away from themselves. These are the highest forms of the bhakta. And he says that they are the Nitya Yuktas, those who are ever established in his own nature. In fact, Uttama Bhaktas are the Dani Bhaktas. Adama Bhaktas are the Artha and Arthartha Bhaktas. And then Madhyama Bhaktas are Jignasu Bhaktas. Abhaktas are not even in that list.
Okay. So now, if we are allowed to have such bhakti for finite goals at all, then why are people only get stuck in sakama bhakti? The verse goes like this: Kamaistaistairhritagnyanaha prapadyante devataha tam tam niyamamasthaya prakritya niyatah swaya.
Right. Okay. So the question is, are we allowed to have bhakti for finite goals at all, which is Sakama Bhakti? And why do we get stuck at this level only? Krishna says that, in fact, Sakama Bhakti is allowed. We are allowed to have the material goals and we are allowed to have bhakti for the material goals. In fact, Krishna says we have to use that as a stepping stone to go towards the Nishkama Bhakti. It is all right to be a Sakama Bhakta because they are much better than Abhaktas. But he says, don't get stuck up at this Sakama Bhakti alone. And why do, in fact, Sakama Bhaktas are also called as Bubukshu Bhaktas. They are after Artha, Kama and Dharma Purushartha. Swamiji jokingly says it is called as contract Bhakti or business Bhakti. It is like even to the God we give conditions. Okay, you give me this, I will give you this. Okay, I will do Urul Seve or I will climb up the hills if you give me this. So those are all Sakama Bhaktas. So he says, why is that people get stuck up with this? Again, lack of discriminative ability. That is also because of their intense ragadveshas. Because of their intense ragadvesha towards the material world, they find it very difficult to come out of the Sakama Bhakti. And they continue to do all the niyamas, all the pujas, as per what is told in the Shastras, only for the material benefits.
Okay. But will that give any hope for Sakama Bhaktas? Anyway, the verse is Antavattu phalam tesham tadbhavatyalpamedhasam devan devayajo yanti madbhakta yanti mamapi naham prakashah sarvasya yogamaya samavritah मूढ़ोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामजमव्ययम्.
This is an important verse. So here Krishna says that Sakama Bhakta will definitely get the finite goals. But he says, become a Nishkama Bhakta in order to attain me. So God's job is only Tatastu. He says, whatever you ask for, you will get. So he's also told you ask for the best available one, which is moksha. He's also prompting all of us. He says there's nothing wrong in Sakama Bhakta, but don't get stuck with it. Why should we not get stuck with Sakama Bhakti alone? If we get stuck with the Sakama Bhakti, which means we are leaning on to the undependable world for our lasting peace, happiness, and the security. Inherently, the world or the universe we depend on has three doshas, three errors. These are bandhakatvam, atruptikaratvam, and dukkhamishritatvam. So this is told beautifully in an acronym BAD. Bandhakatvam means dependence. It causes addiction towards anything that we rely on. And of course, if that particular addictive substance, whatever it could be a mobile phone, it could be our position, it could be wealth. If it is not there, we get a lot of withdrawal symptoms. And therefore, there will be a lot of dukkham. And it doesn't give full happiness at all. There is always something that we want to get more. I know as much ever we get in the material world, we want something more. And therefore, with all these defects which are there in the material world, Krishna says, Sakama Bhakti is fine, but go towards Nishkama Bhakti and go towards moksha. What is moksha? Realizing one's real nature, one's higher nature, and identifying with it, which is beyond all these doshas. And again, he reiterates that the ignorance that people have and why is that they're not able to go is because of Yoga Maya, which we talked about it earlier.
So how do we overcome the delusion of ignorance caused by Maya? Chara marana mokshaya mamashritya yatanti ye te brahma tadviduh kritsnyam adhyatmam karma chakhilam sadhi bhutadi daivam mam sadhi yagnam cha ye viduhu prayana kale pichamam te viduryukta chetasaha.
So ignorance caused by Maya, the strong intense desire towards the material world because of Ragadvesha. So here Sri Krishna is saying, move forward from Sakama Bhakti to Nishkama Bhakti. So take Bhakti, surrender to the God, surrender to Shastram, surrender to Guru, work on the Rajoguna, elevate towards Sattva Guna, and only then we can identify with the Gunatita, which is our higher level, higher nature, which is nothing but the Satchidananda Atma. So here Nishkama Bhakti is given as a remedy, to come out of our ignorance and the suffering. And in the last verse, Krishna gives some technical words called as Brahma, which is all-pervading consciousness, Karma, which is all the voluntary actions that we are doing, Adhyatmam, which is nothing but the Jivatma, Adi Bhutam is the perishable word, and Adi Daivam, which is Hiranyagarbha, which is sum total of the cosmic subtle body. Adi Yagnam is Ishvara. So these are the technical words he introduces, which will become the basis for the 8th chapter. I think we are doing the 6th chapter next and then going to the 8th chapter. So with this, we are concluding and then we can have the discussions. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ashwini and Dr. Diwakar. It was a very enlightening and very interesting summary of Chapter 7. An excellent presentation. Initially, we couldn't hear the chanting, which was so good, but towards the end, it was very clear. The chanting of the slokas were very good, Dr. Ashwini. And besides that, the slides were so good. You see, put and in a very nice way, it was explained. Thank you so much. And now we will open it up for questions. Any questions? Anyone? Janaki Ram, Ramesh? No? Okay. Any questions, any suggestions? What did you think about it? Anything? We would like some kind of feedback. Doctor, I don't see anyone asking questions. I think still, digesting the whole thing, but it was really amazing. Any suggestions from anyone? If there are no questions? No? So if that is the case, I think we will end. Ramesh is not here. He does the vote of thanks. But on behalf of everyone in the School of Ancient Wisdom, I thank both of you for this wonderful presentation. It was really excellent. Thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing from you again sometime in the near future. And we would like you to visit our school also. And I'd like to tell everyone that next week we have Chapter 6. So kindly join us at the same time, Thursday, 6:30, and do tell more and more people to come. We have such excellent talks, as you can see. So we would like more people to join. It would be nice if each of you could bring one person at least with you. Thank you so much. And thank you once again, doctors. It was wonderful having you, and it was a great session. Thank you. Hari Om.